a little overview, went over introductions again, but I'll leave the floor to our professionals here to introduce themselves. But we're gonna meet Dr. Beck, Dr. Rodriguez, and we're gonna hear about HealthBee, and we're gonna hear from Ron about HealthBee. And then we're gonna have Q&A. So I'm gonna let Dr. Beck take it away.
Thank you. And if we could be on gallery view, I'll use my slide and video a little bit later, but if we could be on gallery view, I prefer that so I could see everybody. Welcome. Hi. Anybody who'd like to be seen, I'd love that. If not, that's just fine, but that's why I stay on gallery view. So, hi, I'm Ellen Beck. It's a pleasure to see all of you. I'm a family doctor. I was born and grew up in Montreal, Canada. And a lovely thing about my history is that my dad was actually, he's obviously gone now, but he was born in a previous century. So he was born at the end of the 1800s. And I love that I had a parent who was born in the 1800s. And he came as a refugee when he was about 12, 13 with his brother. They came to Montreal, Canada. They made their way in the world. It was very challenging for them. And he experienced many tragedies in his life. And when I was about 4 or 5, in our household, my half brother committed suicide in our house. And when I was about 10, my half sister became seriously mentally ill with a form of psychosis and remained that way the rest of her life. So there I was growing up, this little kid, and not all that happy. I liked school, I liked reading, I liked television, I liked Saturday morning TV shows, but I really I didn't like myself very much, and I was pretty unhappy. And I looked to my right, and I saw that a person who committed suicide, and I looked to my left, and I saw somebody with serious mental illness. So I thought, well, chances are that's what's going to happen to me. And then over the next few years, as I grew up, and especially when I was a young adult, late teenager, young adult, maybe around the age of some of you, I really realized that no matter what bad things had happened to me or my family, I could be the artist of my existence. I could hold the paintbrush of my life. And nothing that had happened up till that moment had to define me. Nothing had to, maybe they could strengthen me and be a source of understanding and empathy and strength, but they didn't have to determine my life. And by then I was in Montreal and I had applied, I was in med school, and I was not a happy medical student, to be very honest. I was still struggling with some of those feelings, and also looked around myself and thought, wait a minute, I have this dream, this vision of being a healer and teacher, and I'm not always seeing that. I had some great role models, but I wasn't always seeing it. And I was so grateful because there was this dean of students, and the dean of students, I'm a doctor today because of him, because he was only dean of students for 3 years. But I would go to him and I'd be unhappy or scared about what was going on. And he'd say to me, "Are you sad? Are you unhappy?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you're having a healthy response to a sick system. So you're coming into these programs, and I am ecstatic that you're going to be here. And I believe that every image, every name that I see on the screen will become a wonderful health professional, each in your own way. But there's an on the other hand. There's an on the other hand. And if I could make your journey easier, it's, they call this the transfer program, and there are all these fine people in the row at the top here, at least on my screen, they're in the row at the top. Reach out to people. UCSD is not most academic environments are not the easiest environment. They're not easy for students. They're not easy for faculty. They're not easy for staff. I've spent 40 years at this place working to create environments that nourish the spirit, that bring some healing, where we can just be all people together and learning. but it can be challenging. So if you arrive here and your first quarter, you say, oh my gosh, I'm hoping that you'll have a wonderful experience here. But if you start encountering some of the things I'm describing, say, oh yeah, Dr. Beck said, that it might always be, it's not about you. It's not about you. You have all the gifts to be the healer and teacher here you can be, and the future physician or pharmacist or dentist or whatever path you're choosing. You have all of that. You are a leader and you're coming in as a leader, but we don't always respond to you the way you deserve to be responded. And not, I mean, not as a transfer student. I am talking about every single student at UCSD. So reach out early, reach out to the people who are there, recognize that these are cultural issues, that a culture that we need to improve as faculty and as leaders at this university, and that if we had challenge improving all these years. So what I learned, a lot of things I learned that about being that I realized that what I wanted to devote my career to was how could I create environments where people could take charge of their life and achieve well-being. And one was for students, and one was for our patients. So a number of years ago, we started the Student Run Free Clinic Project, and Dr. Rodriguez will talk more about that probably than I will. But I had come from Canada. I just believe on a universal level that there's a human right. It's one of the human rights, right? There's a human right to healthcare. And as a nation, we were terribly falling short, and we continue to fall short. We have not matured. A mature nation, in my mind, recognizes that there are things like rights to healthcare and other rights, education and healthcare, but we haven't matured. We need to grow. So in the meantime, here I was at UCSD Medical School in charge of the students' courses in family medicine. This was like 40 years ago when I got here at UCSD, almost 40 years ago, 30 something. And there were all these passionate students. Some example on the screen here is Dr. Rodriguez, who was a passionate student who wanted to make a difference. And the students started to see me as somebody they could reach out to because I got it around those issues of access to care. And I was also very much interested in a humanistic approach to care. So here I was, and they kept coming to me and saying, Dr. Beck, can we have a free clinic? Dr. Beck, and I said, free clinic? How do you do that? And so then we learned how to do that, and we learned how to do that. And what we realized was what you needed was an outstanding partner who was already doing great work in the community. And if you found we had passionate students, but we needed to find outstanding partners. So we did. Our first partner was an incredible program in Pacific Beach area, actually. It was led by a woman. It's called Harvest for the Hungry. It was led by a woman who had been formerly houseless herself, who had struggled with mental illness, and had created an incredible program for the street houseless, people who are living on the street, to have them have jobs and meaning even before they had housing. And we partnered with her, and we we took us a few months to make sure everything would be legal and that UCSD would support us, not financially, but support us legally, that we were part of UCSD and that when we were out in the community, we were part of UCSD. And we got started, and I'll never forget, I was telling somebody about our first night, because our first night, there was a meal for the house for people who had no food insecurity, I guess is the way you say it today. And there's a meal at the church, and we were downstairs, and we had one room, and we hung a curtain, and a young man then, who is now a really fine ENT surgeon, he actually stuck a nail in the wall and hung a curtain. And on one side it was administration, and on the other side it was patient care. And we had a box of supplies. We made an announcement, and would anybody like to speak to a doctor? And 10 people said yes. So we started. And now we've been around for many years. We helped, and then I started a national fellowship and faculty development program in working with the underserved. And we've had over 300 faculty take it. physicians and dentists and pharmacists from all over the country. And then they went back to their communities. So there's at least 50 clinics that we've either helped start or helped nourish and strengthen over the years. And then the students and us decided to create a national organization of student-run free clinics, and then a national faculty organization of student-run free clinics. And it's such a joy being the grandma or the mom of this program with the students and with the outstanding community partners. And our goal was to provide the best quality care we could to our patients, it wasn't about charity medicine. It wasn't about poverty medicine. It was underserved medicine. The idea that as I said, as a nation, that there were all these vast populations of folks who we were underserving as a nation. And if we were going to give them health care, we were going to do the best we possibly could. It might have been in the basement of a church or the room closet of a school, which is where we started in the schools. We now we have beautiful spaces in all of the places, but we started in room closets, parks, wherever people were. And we have a philosophy of care, which I think is very important in any work that you do in the years to come. Think about, what is my philosophy? What do I believe in? Not only access to care, but how am I going to be with each one of my patients? How am I going to be with each other? How am I going to embody what I believe? So we created 4 core values. And one is to be humanistic, which the training that I did as a young person to learn to be a facilitator in programs that with humanistic psychology that helped me change, to be respectful, to have some empathy if we can, but most importantly, to be self-aware, to grow as people, to be self-aware of the power of our word, of our attitude, of how we are in that moment. So that was number 1. And then number 2 was that we were going to, well, of the 4, we were going to be transdisciplinary. We were going to have medicine and dentistry and pharmacy and 20 specialties eventually, but the patient would be at the center. The promotora, the patients would be at the center. And then the patient would be our teacher. The community will be your teacher. They will not only teach you about life, about medicine, they will teach you life. And if I know anything these days, it's because of my patients, my children, the many teachers that I've had in my life, the real life teachers, the real ones, the patient who is living a very, very difficult life and still comes and does everything to try to take charge of her health and to deal with her diabetes or whatever it is. And you are there in awe because you know that she's also cleaning houses, and you know that she's afraid to walk down the street, and you know it's scary to go pick up her daughter at school, and yet she's coming to the clinic. And then we have these incredible students who you can be part of, for some of you at least. Some of you may have the opportunity to be part of the clinic, and I think Dr. Rodriguez will talk a little bit about how that might be. But you nourish the patient's spirit as well. And you see the patient as a teacher. And then all the care is directly supervised by outstanding physicians whose heart is just full of compassion and who practice of medicine in a way that is being forgotten in not by the physicians, but by systems in our community. So the fourth goal was to empower. What could you do to create environments where people took charge of their life and achieved well-being? What could you do? And it didn't mean you always had to fix somebody. How did you create the environment? Was it knowledge? Was it helping them with something they want to do? They knew that they loved to dance, and that's the exercise. How can you make it possible for the patient to have dance sessions or dance clubs? We had a wonderful student once. The med students had to do these independent projects, and he thought the patients would enjoy, like, he used to be a sort of a trainer, and he thought the patients would enjoy, like, jumping jacks and things. But the patients very quickly let him know that walking and dancing was how they wanted to exercise, and he listened to them. And then we ended up with this great program. And we have food programs and we have all these things, but really it's been pure joy. And then dentistry. I don't know, some of you may be interested in the field of dentistry. It's one of the greatest unmet needs in the country, and and it's so expensive, as you probably know, if you need to seek dental care. And that we can provide free restorative dental care here, where there isn't even a dental school in San Diego. So we became a leader in how to have students involved in dentistry, pre-dental care, pre-dental students, even if we didn't have a dental school. And then we had this incredible pharmacy faculty, uh, Eduardo Frykowski, who actually grew up near one of our free clinics. And his family, he would be comfortable sharing too, that his family got care at a free clinic. And now has been our lead pharmacist. So we've been able to identify role models for you. And I just want to encourage you to trust that you already have the gifts to be a healer and teacher. And then what else do I want to say to you? There'll be time later for questions. I'm just taking a second, and I want to think of the other things that I wanted to share with you. I have a little video that I want you to see. There's a very important role. It's called a promotora. Promotora. You may have worked with promotoras, health navigators. At our free clinic, our promotoras who have worked with us for many, many years have been some of my greatest life teachers. So we started, a student helped us start what we called an empowerment group, Grupo de Apoyo. But after a while, it became peer-led by the promotoras who had been formerly patients and then volunteers, and now are some of the wisest people you could want to meet. So I have a 2-minute video. Joseph, if you could show our video about the group.
Mi nombre es Irma Macías y antes de yo venir a este grupo, yo era una persona como no sabía controlar mis ansiedades, mi carácter y tenía muchos problemas en la manera de cómo hablar con mis hijos, con mi esposo, con mi familia. Y desde que estoy viniendo aquí, gracias a todo el grupo, a todo el apoyo de todas las del grupo, me siento una persona diferente. Sé controlar mi carácter, ya con mis hijos me la llevo mucho mejor.
Desde que vine yo al grupo, pues de ahí solté todo lo que traía, lloré. Y ahorita, desde que he venido al grupo, pues me han ayudado todos aquí a pensar, a defenderme y a seguir adelante sin miedo.
Pues este grupo también me ha ayudado mucho a pensar buenas cosas, a decirles a mis hijos que aquí vengo porque aquí se oyen buenos consejos para la familia. Y a mis hijos les digo, ¿y a qué va, mamá? No, le digo, ya, allá nos divertimos bien a gusto, todo allí. Y yo ya el día que se llega, ahora, ay, mañana vamos a ir.
Le doy muchas gracias a Dios porque encontré este grupo, me ha ayudado con mis problemas, a concentrarme, a saber hacia dónde ir. Yo creo, yo no sé dónde estaría ahorita si yo no hubiera encontrado este grupo. Le doy gracias a Dios por Isabel, por Charlene, por la doctora Beck. Son mi familia. Era muy solitaria, ya no estoy sola. Gracias.
And just so you know that everyone on that video gave permission for that video to be made, because you don't just want to take a video, so they all gave their permission to have that video be made and be shown. So the last person who spoke initially was a member of that group, but now for how many years, Natalie? She has been one of our lead employees, our lead promotoras at the Free Clinic Project. And the woman who held the arms of, I don't know if you said that, the elderly woman, and another woman was kind of talking to her. That's Isabel Dominguez, and is our lead promotora. So they are our teachers. And I think what I want to just share, and I'm aware of our time, I'm going to just share one other thing. I want to give you some guidance. When I give these Gandhi teaches that to be the change we wish to see in the world. And if we take a moment and are very honest right now, the world is in trouble. Our country is in trouble. The nation, our city. There's so many people in fear. There's so many people who are uncertain. And it can become daunting. There are places of war and pain and loss. It can become overwhelming. And how do we stay focused on the studies and the things we need to do in order to achieve our dreams? It can be very hard. So I invite you for a moment to go within. I invite you for a moment to go within and to just look inside for a moment. Say your first name to yourself, if you don't mind. I can't see you, so I'm trusting if you want to do that. And thank you for the few of you that chose to come on screen. I'm very grateful. It makes a difference. So I'd like you to look within for a second and maybe say your name to yourself and just thank yourself for putting yourself on this journey and for continuing to care as in the midst of all of this, because really there's a teaching that if we affect the life of one person, we help one person, in a sense, we're helping the world. So where I'm at in my life is I still want to change the world. I still want to make a difference in any way that I can. And there's some things that I'm involved with right now. But for you, I would say, if you want to follow Gandhi, and not necessarily his belief system, but more this idea of being the change that you want to be and you want to see in the world, how do we do that? And the first thing we need to do, I think, is to think of Rumi, who is a famous Sufi Muslim teacher. And Rumi teaches not to move the way fear moves us. Fear can be in our life. We want to make it smaller. We want to make it a little useful. But if it's overwhelming, it can derail us. Usually fear has a good goal, but terrible technique, like paralysis and insomnia and jerking us around. But it can be useful, a tiny bit of it, just a tiny bit. And the rest, let it go sit on a chair somewhere because it's not helping. So Rumi taught that. But then what do we want to do with that? So Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley taught that we must emancipate ourselves from mental enslavement, that only we can free our minds. As you go through this path that you're already on, do not let yourself get caught up in these rules and definitions of how you're supposed to be or whether you're good enough or not. You are. The biggest thing I had to learn was not to be so hard on myself. And it was transformative for me. And I invite you that you couldn't probably be at this moment unless you're already somebody who's pretty hard on yourself. But be kind to yourself as well. You're kind to everybody else. I get this sense of you. Be kind to yourself as well. So then you take those two things, and what do you want to do? You want to think about Martin Luther King Jr. And we have the honor of some of the people who helped us found one of our sites actually knew King and marched with him from Selma to Montgomery, and are still my friends. They're still my friends. And he taught that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So find an injustice that you are passionate about and address it. And then to do what Dolores Huerta said. It wasn't, it was Dolores Huerta who said, "Sí se puede." Yes, we can. We have to live as if we can, even if it seems like those phoenixes are that will rise from the ashes are so far away. I have to live as if I can. We have to live as if we can make a difference. And I guarantee you that you can. I guarantee you, at least one person at a time, you will make a lot of difference. You probably already are in your families and with people you love. And then what do we do with all of this? Well, there are a teacher who taught, if I'm not for myself, his name was Hillel, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? Martyrs die. Do not be a martyr. Take care of yourself. Do the things that are your sources of strength, whether it's basketball, music, surfing, family, faith, reading, whatever it is. Make sure that even in a tiny way, you're keeping that into your life, because it's how we stay connected with our core values. And then this teacher taught, if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? But I don't worry about that with you. You will be for others. And then he said, if not now, when? And what I want to leave you with is another teaching from another great teacher who I love. And this other teaching, especially in the world right now, is to once a day go outside, go in the field, be it with yourself, and pour out our hearts, to stay connected with all the troubles that there are in the world. But the rest of the day, to do whatever we can to have a moment of wonder, a moment of joy, a moment of friendship, a moment of learning, to stay true to who we are deep within, and then to do things like creating environments where people can take charge of their life and achieve well-being, including yourself, which I'm sure you will do. So thank you. And now I'm going to pass it to my wonderful former student, who I am so honored is one of the two leaders, the medical leaders and directors of the Free Clinic right now, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Beck. It was so lovely to get to swim in your story and in your teachings for a minute. It's been a while, so I appreciated that. Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalie Rodriguez, and I am a family physician. I am a clinical professor here at UCSD, and I am the associate director of the Student Run Free Clinic Project, and I'm the medical director for health equity at UC San Diego Health. And I feel so lucky that I get to wear so many incredible hats in my career. And I want to take you back because I didn't always think that I was going to be here. And my path to medical school and through medical school was pretty rocky and challenging. And I think it's so important to share that part of my story, that we all share those parts of our stories, because I think sometimes what you'll see is the people who make it look easy, and sometimes that can really make us feel discouraged, make you feel like I can't do it. And so I hope that our time together today is encouraging, that the path to medicine and through medicine isn't always easy, but that doesn't mean that it's not for you. And my message would be that, medicine needs you, what you bring to your future career and your future patients and clients, regardless of what career you choose, that what you bring to the individuals and the communities that you will serve is so important and is really needed. And so part of, one of the many hats that I wear is really encouraging, supporting, and mentoring folks on their journeys, because I think it's so critically important. And I can say that I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for some really key people in my life who encouraged me along the way. So I'm gonna I'll share some funny pictures with you. Where might, hold on. Let's see here. There we go. Oh gosh. Okay. Sorry, it is slow. There we go. So these are some pictures from my childhood, the beginning of my life. I grew up in Los Angeles, and my family is from Cuba, and that played a really big role in my upbringing. The challenges that my family overcame and coming as refugees, and just the sacrifices that they made to carve out a new life for themselves here was absolutely a story that was told to me growing up. And I also had a really traumatic birth and was not supposed to survive. And so, when I think about when was the first time I had the idea that I wanted to be a doctor, I can't tell you, because it's like as long as I've lived, this was the only thing I ever wanted to be. And so much of it, I think, really came from the values that my family instilled in me, and then this story that I grew up with about my own birth and the doctor who miraculously saved my life and my mom's life, and this sense of like, well, I want to make an impact in the lives of other people and in my community in the same way. So um I also picked this picture on the left. That is me in Hawaii with my grandparents and my mom, who's like so chic. And one thing that my family instilled in me was a love for travel and a curiosity about the world, and this just a desire to understand people and to see our common humanity above our differences. And I think that's a lesson that I've really carried forward into my career as a doctor, and just into my life in general. So I wanted to share that. So I went to college here at UC San Diego. I am what they call a lifer. I have been here my entire adult life. I moved here in 1995. That is 30 years ago. And I was not prepared for the challenges of college. I think up until that point, I had been pretty successful academically. I, you know, it's not that I didn't work hard, but I didn't work too hard. And school came pretty easy to me. And then I got to college and I got to UCSD, and I was like, uh-oh, this is different. This is hard. This is something I wasn't really ready for. And part of that was just the independence of, no, there is no homework and you're just expected to show up to class and take your midterm and take your final, and and that was it. And so, not surprisingly, and like many people, I didn't do that great. It took me a minute to find my footing, to find my confidence. And part of what happened in that period of time was that what I heard was, oh, you're pre-med, you don't have a 4.0, you'll never get into med school. And that really shook me, and it kind of bumped me off my path. And so what it led to was just kind of not trying very hard. Well, if I can't go to med school, then why should I, kill myself to get good grades? I'm just gonna kind of skate by. And and so that's kind of what I did through college. And um then at the end of my time, when I was like, okay, well, now I'm graduating, what's next? And I realized, shoot, I this doctor thing, like, this isn't going away. And I explored other things, and I did research, and I explored being a physical therapist because my best friend was going to be a physical therapist. And I was like, maybe I could do that. But the truth was, like, all I really wanted to do was be a doctor. That was what I felt like really matched my skill set, and my goals. And then I had to come to terms with the fact that, well, now I don't have very good grades, and that's like the one thing I knew you needed to get into medical school. And how do I fix that problem? And so I was so lucky, to have been chosen to participate in a post-baccalaureate program, and really received some really fabulous mentoring and support, and was asked really good questions like, why did you take 5 upper division biology classes all at the same time? Who could possibly have gotten A's in all of those classes? And I was like, I don't know. I saw other people doing that, so I thought that's what I had to do. And just realizing that I wish I had gotten some of this advice earlier in my life. And through their mentoring and their support, I was lucky enough to get into medical school. So I'm going to take a pause here and explain this picture. This is my personal statement for my med school application. And this is a picture that goes along with the story that I'm telling. So I told you that my birth story was really instrumental in kind of sparking what I think my initial desire to be a doctor. And then when I was, it's debatable what year, but I think it was when I was 8 years old. I had a very life-changing experience on a trip to Cuba to visit my great grandma. That's her in the picture. And she was 100 years old in this picture. And I had an encounter with extreme poverty and injustice in a way that really changed my heart. And I think was really the kind of spark in my life that influenced my desire to dedicate my career to working with underserved and under-resourced communities. And so that's what I shared about in my personal statement when I was applying to medical school. I want to go back and say one other thing that I think is really important in my own personal journey. And that is, I told you I grew up in a very proud Cuban family. And a part of that were some beliefs and identities that didn't necessarily jive with me personally, that I kind of had to come to terms with when I was in college, and really kind of trying to figure out, like, who am I? Not who does my family say that I am, or what does my background say that I am, but who am I? And what kind of person do I want to be in this world? And so, you may or may not know that Cuban American people tend to be very conservative politically. And so I grew up in a very politically conservative household, and Cuban Americans also have a lot of pride around their politics and why they came to the US and how that sets them apart from other immigrants. And as I was growing into myself in college, those were not really ideologies that I felt like were me. And it took me a long time to really wrestle with that I saw myself more as a Latina than I did necessarily as Cuban American. And I would say my family had a white identity where they came from. And growing up in Southern California as a brown person, I can honestly say I've never had a white identity. And so there were all of these things that I was really wrestling with in my own identity as a person that I think also really helped shape my professional identity and the kind of doctor that I wanted to be and the kind of way I wanted to be with my patients and the kinds of patients that I wanted to serve. And I can tell you that, that wasn't always in line with what my family had hoped and dreamed for me. And that's something that I've had to deal with. And I share that because I know that there are folks from all different kinds of cultures who struggle with maybe their desire to pursue medicine and whether or not that aligns with what their family had hoped and dreamed for them. So I feel like it's an important part of my story, and I think it's important to share. And if you're currently wrestling with all of that, keep going. It's worth it, and you'll get there to the place where you feel like you know who you are and you know what you want to do and be and how you want to be in this world. And I think that's really important, especially in these challenging times. Okay, back to med school. So I get into med school, and from where you're sitting and from where I had been sitting, that felt like that was supposed to be the hard part, right? Like once you got in, I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but I thought I had overcome the hardest part. And that was certainly not true. And med school was incredibly challenging. And I don't just mean academically. I will tell you that UCSD was a much different place back then. And there were not very many students of color, and the school, I don't think, really knew how to support students of color or value what we brought to the table in our institution. And that was a really hard place to be, to not feel wanted, to not feel valued. And that's where I encountered the Student Run Free Clinic and Dr. Beck and Isabel and so many people. I needed a place of connection. I needed somewhere where I connected with people who looked like me, who spoke Spanish, who reminded me of my grandmas. And that was really what I found at the free clinic. I think I'm sure you can read between the lines, right? Like I was kind of putting together this idea of the kind of doctor I wanted to be, who served the community, who took care of Spanish speaking patients, who took care of people who were experiencing poverty, who were experiencing injustice. And I had this idea, but I had never seen that in action. I had no idea if that was a thing you could even do. And I was so lucky to meet incredible physicians who were doing exactly that all over San Diego, who were taking care of patients at the free clinic, who were taking care of migrant patients up in North County. And I was so inspired by the work that people were doing. But for me, the transformative experience of Free Clinic was really that sense of community and connection, and the sense of like, I'm home. These are my people. I found my people. And I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to work at the free clinic, and I wanted to be a part of creating that kind of experience for future generations of medical students. I didn't want other students to suffer in the same ways that I had. And so when I graduated, I said to Dr. Beck, literally, I said, save me a job. I'll be back in 3 years. And she did. I'll share with you my funny med school pictures. Me with short hair, who let me do that, and for a long period of time, because you see it's short when I started. That's my white coat ceremony on the left, and it's short when I graduated. Nobody told me you should grow your hair out. But anyways, all kidding aside, um I made it. I survived med school, and I joke that I went all the way to Chula Vista to do my residency, and I trained at Scripps in Chula Vista with some amazing physicians who I felt like were also going to train me to be the kind of doctor I wanted to be, that worked in and with communities and were really serving the binational population down at the border. And so I went for 3 years. And then I came back, and I have been back at the free clinic since 2008. And it has just been an incredible honor to get to be a part of student stories, to get to build relationships with the most incredible and inspiring patients. As Dr. Beck mentioned, community as teacher is one of our core values, and I think it's the value that I hold closest to my heart, because our patients are just truly inspiring, who teach me so much about life and resiliency. And I hold their stories very close to my heart. So yeah, so I've been back at the free clinic for many years. This is my 18th year, and I love it. And I feel really lucky. When I graduated from residency, I had no responsibilities to anyone other than myself. I was single, my parents are young and healthy, and I was able to kind of piece by piece build this job over the course of some years. Dr. Beck was incredibly supportive of me, and Dr. Marianne McKennett, who was my program director and mentor during residency, they both basically gave me these incredible opportunities to begin to build my dream job. And I was so lucky to be able to do that, to not have to take the highest paying job because I was drowning in student debt at the time. And piece by piece over the course of years, was able to add things on. I became very involved in admissions work and supporting students in their journeys towards medicine. And I get to be the director of a program here at UCSD that is in support of students who come from underrepresented backgrounds, who've had those challenging experiences. I'm a senior advisor to the post-bac program, and just feel really fortunate that that those are parts of my job as well. So I'll share with you just a couple more pictures. This is my family, and this is us on an incredible adventure. We went to the Hot Air Balloon Fiesta in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and went up in a hot air balloon with, I think there were 15 of us from my family all in the balloon together, and it was an incredible, it's like a thrill and also like the most peaceful thing you've done at the same time. So it is a bucket list thing if you ever have the opportunity to do it. I highly recommend it. But so thankful for my family and all of their support. And we, we don't see eye to eye on very many things, but I am so thankful for the ways that they have supported me and the ways they are curious. They may not understand me and my choices, but they're curious. They ask questions, and I'm thankful for that. And this is my partner, Alfred, and I could spend a long time talking about that personal part of my life, but all that to say, he is incredibly supportive and a huge cheerleader. And I think if my first piece of advice for you all is that medicine needs you, my second piece of advice is find your cheerleaders and keep them close, because the journey is challenging. And there's going to be times when you're going to fall and need someone to pick you up. Or you're going to need someone to remind you that you want to get up and keep going. So your cheerleaders are so incredibly important in getting you into med school and through the journey of medicine and life. So I just wanted to share that. And then I'll just end this part with, this is our family photo. We were up in Mendocino this weekend and just enjoying being outside and being with the trees and near the ocean. And the sun didn't come out a single time the whole weekend we were there. But it was just incredible to get to decompress and unplug before the craziness of the school year starts. So that's a little bit about my journey. I'll talk a little bit about the free clinic. That's my email. Don't hesitate to use it. If there's ever anything I can do to be helpful or supportive, or any questions I can answer, like I said, it is an honor to get to support and mentor people. And so if there's any way I can help, encourage, cheerlead, whatever you need on your journey, that's my email. Don't be afraid to use it. Okay, so I'll tell you, this is like some more details about the free clinic, because I do think it is such a unique place. We do things a little different. And also I do think that part of our mission is also helping support students in their journeys towards medicine. 19 of our volunteers this year left us to start med school, and we love that. That is just so exciting. That's a huge part of what we're doing, as well as teaching medical students and taking care of patients. Dr. Beck talked about Dr. Frykowski, that's him on the left, and he is our director of pharmacy services. Dr. Yamaguchi, who's next to him, Michelle Johnson, who's our incredible director, and me, the four of us. We were all students at the free clinic. We are all leaders of the free clinic. I think that really speaks to how impactful the free clinic was in our own journeys, that we're all here because we want to continue to build those types of experiences for students. And then on the end is Donna Silverstein, and her husband was the founding director of our dental clinic, and he sadly passed away, but she continues to be involved in the free clinic and is really honoring his legacy. And so this is a picture from our event a couple of years ago. So I love sharing it. A little bit about our patients. So we tell our students and our volunteers, like, yes, we're here for you to learn, but we're here for our patients first and foremost. And we put them at the center and we take care of them one patient at a time. As Dr. Beck says, where our goal is always to provide our patients with the highest quality of care. We may not always know exactly how we're going to do that. You know, what happens if a patient develops cancer? How are we going to get them treatment? We have a patient right now who's 30 years old and developed a very significant disease to her hip during her pregnancy and requires a hip replacement. And we've been working for a year to get her a hip replacement, and we did it. And she has her appointment with the surgeon next week. So it's not always easy. It's not always obvious how we're going to do it, but we just continue to put our patients first and explore every option for them. The majority of our patients are monolingual Spanish speaking, and this is evolving. We have Russian speaking patients, we have Haitian Creole speaking patients. We've taken many patients from the Middle East speaking, from Afghanistan, from Iran in the last year or so. But overwhelmingly, our patients are Spanish speaking. And so we have many, many interpreters who help us provide language concordant care for our patients. Our patients don't qualify for insurance. They may or may not qualify for Medi-Cal. Many of our patients make just a little bit too much money for Medi-Cal. So that means they're still living very, very close to the poverty line. They would not be able to pay to go see a doctor or pay for medications, but sadly they don't qualify for access to care through Medi-Cal. And now I'm sure you're all aware that between the state budget being cut and changes happening at the federal level with the House bill, there are many changes to Medi-Cal coming in the next year, and we are preparing ourselves to be able to respond to what we anticipate is going to be great need. The free clinic has always been a part of what we call the safety net here in San Diego. San Diego County does not have a county healthcare system that is responsible for taking care of people who are falling through the cracks. And it's crazy to think that a student-run free clinic would be part of that, but alas, that is the reality that we have lived in for a long time. And we had some really beautiful years there, 2 years, 3 years almost of patients getting access to care, being able to get the things that they needed, like surgeries and colonoscopies and things that sometimes we really struggled or had very long wait times to get for our patients. But we know that come January of 2026, the need is going to rise again, and we want to be ready to respond. So many of our patients struggle with food insecurity, and we have a beautiful program that responds to that. And then many of our patients live in multi-generational or multi-family homes and are supported by their adult children. And, you know, it just really speaks to it's expensive to live in San Diego. Our patients are really struggling to meet their basic needs. These are all the services that we offer, so many: pharmacy, social work, acupuncture. Incredible that our patients are able to receive acupuncture, dental services. Our dental clinics are beautiful. And we joke, have air conditioning when our medical clinic doesn't. We have a legal clinic that provides incredible advice for our patients. We have the most wonderful mental health team providing psychology and psychiatry services at all of our sites. And you heard about our food prescription program. These are pictures of a couple of our other programs. We have a nutrition kitchen program. So you'll see the picture at the top. Those are students cooking with patients, preparing healthy and culturally appropriate foods, often made with the produce that we get from the food prescription bags. The picture on the right are students who go out in Pacific Beach. They do street outreach, and they're providing resources and connection with folks who live outside in the beach area. And then the picture on the left is our resource table, which is one of our newest additions, and is a program that we have at our Pacific Beach site where patients are able to shop the table and take whatever food and resources they want. In the bullets are some of the roles that we have for volunteers. If you're interested in volunteering with us, we have administrative roles that can be on-site or off-site. We also have many, many volunteers who help us apply for free prescriptions for patients. We have interpreter services. So that's a huge part of being able to provide high quality care for our patients. We have the food prescription program if you wanted to volunteer and help prepare. We give away 70,000 pounds of food every year. So we need a lot of muscle power to make that happen. So many ways to be involved if you're interested. I will be honest and tell you that it is incredibly competitive to become our volunteer. And I think that really speaks to the meaning and just the positive experience that volunteers have with us. And so don't get discouraged. I should have put this in the slides, and I can add it if and we can share the slides with you, but there's a Facebook group. So if you go to, I know who's on Facebook, but we are, it's the UCSD Student Run Free Clinic Project Volunteers group, and I can put it in the chat. And you can request to be added to the group, and that's where all of the positions get posted and where you would learn how to apply if you were interested in becoming our volunteer. So from what I hear from students, they say, turn your notifications on, check the group every morning, and be patient. But it is an incredible experience, and we would love to have you join us if that is something you were interested in. These are just pictures from the free clinic throughout the years. I love that they tell our history and our different locations, different generations of students, different activities. There's like a fun run happening up in the far left. So I love sharing this because I think it speaks to just how long we've been at it and how many students have had positive and transformative experiences taking care of our wonderful patients. And then this is me and Dr. Johnson, and this is my favorite picture of the two of us. I think we're like, our smiles are just so genuine, and I think it really demonstrates how much we love working together and how much we love getting to work with our incredible students and patients. So thanks so much for letting me share my story with all of you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Rodriguez. I'm going to pass it on to Ron now so he can speak a little bit about HealthBeat.
All right. Fun fact, I've known Dr. Rodriguez for a while. Little fun tip here. Before I was in pre-health advisement, I was actually one of the program managers for the UCSD post-baccalaureate pre-med program. So I got to know Dr. Rodriguez very well. I have to say, it's always been a joy working with a lot of the faculty and staff, both those coming from School of Medicine as well as people like Dr. Rodriguez, who I always love to hear. So always. So real quick, I had a lot of slides, but I'm going to zip through because I want to make sure people have time to ask questions, hopefully. Real quick intros and overview. So hopefully everybody can see my screen. HealthBeat is part of the Career Center. So the Career Center is kind of our main professional development for all of UCSD. And I and one other colleague are kind of the people that helm HealthBeat, which is pretty much how we try and support as many students as possible with kind of need to know tips, resources, and as much programming as we can muster to really try and get a lot of valuable information out to students. So I always like to say, these are my colleagues. This is our current team. And so regardless of what major or what college you're in, I always tell everybody, we have a staff here that is really trying to help with your professional development and ability to apply to experiences, network, find mentors, look for resources, talk about where do you want to go and what do you want to do, and have those professional conversations to make sure these are the things that you really want to do, right? I just like to kind of point that out because HealthBeat is housed within our pre-graduate and graduate education section of the Career Center. So some things that generally HealthBeat and the Career Center make available for everyone. So we do a lot of career education from one-on-one appointments to programming. We have virtual fairs coming up. Fun fact, it's been 4 or 5 years since we've had a graduate career fair. That is also coming up, and I have a slide for that. We engage in different professional development workshops. We bring employers and panelists to campus to talk to students about profession. We have on-campus interview space for a lot of the internships from larger employers that we bring in. And we also provide a comprehensive amount of resources that students can access on the Career Center website. With any luck and enough begging and pleading, hopefully we will have an up-to-date, even shinier and easier to use website in the next year. That is what I'm looking for. A little deeper dive. These are the specific associate directors that we have at the Career Center, myself included. Jade and I are the HealthBeat advisors. We have about 7 other full-time staff that are here to really support everybody in the topics that I have on the screen. So for, again, exploration, mock interviewing, salary negotiation, grad school planning, you have a team. So I want to just remind everybody, it's not just me and Jade, although I'm happy to answer as many questions as I can. You do have other people on our team that are here to help you, especially with some of these critical points in developing yourself professionally. So I always want to outsource some of my colleagues because they're all incredible, amazing people. And if I could, I probably could talk about an hour for each one of them about their history and background and why it's so helpful to have them around. So is that a repeat? Yes. Other resources real quick. When you log into Handshake, most of these are going to be available for you. And I'll touch on Handshake very quickly. Just want to let you know you do have several resources at your fingertips. Just log in with your student information and you're there. Okay. And that will be through Handshake. As far as specific to healthcare in general, it's Jade and myself. A couple things about me as a background. I did admissions for about 12 years. And then I did healthcare education where I was with the post-baccalaureate program. And then from there, I went over to the Career Center to work with all of you all to hopefully help you with getting into hopefully a profession that you are happy with. And particularly, I've been working with students pursuing healthcare professions. So that's just a little bit about me. Jade also has kind of a behavioral science background. She actually was originally a pre-farm, liked people too much and decided to go into counseling instead, and now is here with us as another pre-health advisor. So she is my counterpart, and we do a lot of the programming together. That being said, so HealthBeat is our website. It is housed within the career, healthbeat.ucsd.edu. Please just remember that. It'll take you to the major areas that we do to kind of support students. And we put the most commonly asked about professions and tracks that students ask us about on the HealthBeat website. So we tried to make it a little bit more user-friendly. You can also sign up for notifications there. I won't go over all the logistics, but I will say the kind of main ways students interact and utilize our resources is using the main website, showing up when we have drop-in hours, which we at least at a minimum try and do once a quarter during week 4. We might be changing the schedule to try and have a few more available times in the year. We do have an Instagram and YouTube account. So the YouTube account is on the Career Center website. We have the HealthBeat playlist. The Instagram account is where we have all the resources and postings and opportunities that are both on and off campus. Very important thing, and off campus. So I have everything from different colleagues who show up with different conferences for students to unique internships and scholarships and opportunities students can apply to. So we always like to put it there to make it easy to get to. Besides that, I work with HMP3, which is one of the student organizations on campus that does 2 healthcare conferences a year and that students can get into. Meds is a minimal cost to get in, and we try and make our spring conference free for all students. And then besides that, for quick questions that don't need an appointment, use the HealthBeat inbox to ask us random things that hopefully we can answer quickly. And then we have Handshake for our appointments. And so real quick, because I get this all the time, might as well, while I have you, I'm just going to say it real quick. To get into Handshake, it's really not that bad. You can click on it from the Career Center website or just go to like Handshake. There's like a Handshake account for UCSD that you could just pull up. You should have access into your student account, update your profile, put your information there. It'll help us not only keep track of where you're going and what you're doing, but also a lot of the notifications we have for you, especially around professions, are based off of how well you update your profile. So if you are following healthcare things, you will get healthcare notifications. So make sure your account's up to date. We also help put all the things that are designed for college students that are currently enrolled to get work experience. And we've been trying to push for more paid rather than unpaid, if at all possible. That is a very important thing. And so Handshake is kind of the quick stop shop for you to look at postings, see what's available, see what if there's internships, research. I'm still working with a few for other kind of clinical opportunities. It's complicated, but if you are curious, you can talk to us about it. As you're looking at these postings. Besides that, oh no, my computer's acting up. Last thing I will mention is if you do need to schedule an appointment, super easy. Click on Career Center, click on Appointment, and select the closest category you want to do, and there you go. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what HealthBeat does. And then some basic tips from the Career Center. Always familiar yourself with your resources. Please attend our workshops and follow us on Instagram so that we can make sure that you are not missing anything. And then leverage all of the resources. I can't say this enough. My colleagues are amazing. We are here to support everybody and make sure that you are at least talking to a professional about where you want to go, what you want to do, how to kind of develop these critical skills so that, as you hopefully pursue, at least for my students, a healthcare profession, you can come into it with really asking those critically important questions that both Dr. Beck and Dr. Rodriguez had mentioned about really having a sense of what's important and valuable to you, what motivates you, what will help you kind of push through, right? Because from a professional development standpoint, if we really know what motivates us and what we value, we can make some really thoughtful decisions about how we want to go about our career and what we want to pursue. And have a clear mind about it. And so hopefully that also lowers everybody's cortisol level as they panic on what they want to do in the future. If we have a game plan, it's a lot easier. So that's my speed run on resources so that we can have time for Q&A.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Ron, Dr. Beck, and Dr. Rodriguez, once again for all your wonderful input. Everyone, if Dr. Beck, Dr. Rodriguez, and Ron, you as well, if you allow me, I'm more than happy to share all these slides with the students. Me and Joe will work on a kind of wrap email, like a thank you email, and we'll send all these great resources, and we'll link the Facebook page for the UC Food Clinic and make sure everything is on there. So if I have your permission, we'll work on. Beautiful,
May I
beautiful.
ask,
Yeah.
May I ask Ron a question I just have a question for you, Ron and Jade. If a student is really feeling, a transfer student is really feeling an urgent need to talk to someone, and let's say a class is not going the way they hoped, and they're almost seeing like, what is happening to my dream? And they trust your group. I realize that there are many resources at UCSD, but they feel, I want to go. How do they reach out, or what would you advise that person if they're feeling like, I want to reach you, but it's hard to reach? And I apologize, I tend to ask difficult questions, but I feel like that was what my heart was asking. What if I was in that situation?
So I will say this much. Our inbox is messy. But if it's a big priority, usually subject line, please need to discuss, and then just what's going on helps, right? Because if it's a really big emergency, it might not be just us. We need to kind of say, okay, here are the things that we need to say you want to work on, and then let's figure out a time to maybe touch base, right? Because depending on the circumstance, because I used to work in other spheres, and sometimes it's more of not just us, but okay, what are the other things we need to work through, and where can we network a lot of those resources so that it's more comprehensive. The Career Center is housed in Student Retention Success, and my colleagues and I always talk about how do we share support, right? So like, for example, I might have a student that is going through an existential crisis, both professionally, academically, and personally with family. And so I can help with certain parts. Our counseling services can help with another part. If they are also somebody that I have worked with before, and I know that they are also struggling financially, maybe I have other resources that I defer. And we want to make sure that, usually an emergency is not a one thing, it's a combination of things that interact. But always reach out to us, let us know what's going on, kind of really let us know what are the key things that are happening, and we will try and work with students. That has always been the approach.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I just want to say, so what I'm hearing is put it in the subject line. Give yourself permission to put it in the subject line, even if you feel a
Absolutely.
little awkward. Put it in
Yeah.
the subject line. And
Yeah.
I really
If it's
heard that. So thank you.
urgent, I need help with X, and then just
Exactly.
here are some key things I need to know, and I really would need the help, right? Like really just
Thank
ask for
you.
help. That
Thank
is the
you.
biggest thing. It is okay to ask for help. That will be a mantra I will say in ad nauseum forever and ever and ever. Yeah.
I will add to that just to shamelessly plug the Transfer Hub. We are a resource for transfer students, incoming, current, any UCSD student can come into our office and have a talk with any of our peer staff, peer coach. And if there's ever any hiccup in reaching somebody specifically, we can put referrals in, we can make sure that you're connected. And we have a wonderful incoming peer coach group that has a lot of specialty in all kinds of major departments and experiences that can help you through any kind of, hiccup in your transition. Speaking for myself, I was really strong user of the transfer of my first year. So we are a point that you can reach to, and then we are more than happy to talk with you. And thank you so much. And for you to reach anybody else. But we're gonna leave room for you to ask any questions. And thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you, Dr. Beck, Dr. Rodriguez.